Debir Hayamim Bet, or 2nd Chronicles, chapter 6. Then Shlomo said, Yehovah has said he would dwell in the dark cloud, but I have built you an exalted house and a place for you to dwell in forever. And the sovereign turned around and blessed all the assembly of Israel, while all the assembly of Israel stood. And he said, Blessed be Yehovah Elohim of Israel, who has filled with his hands what he spoke with his mouth to my father David, saying, From the day that I brought my people out of the land of Mitzrayim, I have chosen no city from any tribe of Israel in which to build a house for my name to be there, nor did I choose any man to be a leader over my people Israel. But I have chosen Jerusalem for my name to be there, and I have chosen David to be over my people Israel. And it was in the heart of my father David to build a house for the name of Yehovah Elohim of Israel. But Yehovah said to my father David, Because it was in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well in that it was in your heart. But you do not build the house. For your son who comes forth from your loins, he does build the house for my name. Now, Yehovah has established his word which he spoke, and I have been raised up instead of my father David, and sit on the throne of Israel as Yehovah promised, and I have built the house for the name of Yehovah, Elohim of Israel. And there I've placed the ark, in which is the covenant of Yehovah, which he made with the children of Israel. And he stood before the slaughter place of Yehovah in front of all the assembly of Israel and spread out his hands. For Shlomo had made a bronze platform, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits broad and 3 cubits high, and had put it in the midst of the court. And he stood on it and knelt down on his knees before all the assembly of Israel, and spread out his hands toward the heavens, and said, Yehovah Elohim of Israel, there is no Elohim in the heavens or on earth like you, guarding the covenant and loving commitment with your servants, who walk before you with all their heart, who has guarded what you promised your servant David, my father. Indeed, you have both spoken with your mouth and have filled it with your hand, as it is to this day. And now, Yehovah Elohim of Israel, guard what you promised your servant David, my father, saying, There's not to cease a man of yours before me sitting on the throne of Israel, only if your sons guard their way, to walk in my Torah as you've walked before me. And now, Yehovah, Elohim of Israel, let your word come true which you have spoken to your servant David. For is it true? Elohim dwells with men on earth. See, the heavens and the heavens of the heavens are unable to contain you, how much less this house which I have built. Yet you shall turn to the prayer of your servant and his supplication, O Yehovah my Elohim, to listen to the cry and to the prayer which your servant is praying before you. For your eyes to be open toward this house day and night, toward the place you have said to put your name there, to listen to the prayer which your servant prays toward this place. And shall you give heed to the supplications of your servant and of your people Israel, when they pray toward this place, and hear from your dwelling place in the heavens, and shall hear, forgive? If anyone sins against his neighbor, and if he has lifted up an oath on him to cause him to swear, and comes and swears before your slaughter place in this house, then hear in the heavens, and act, and rightly rule your servants, repaying the wrong by bringing his way on his own head, and declare right the righteous by giving him according to his righteousness. And if your people Israel are smitten before an enemy because they've sinned against you, and they shall turn back and confess your name and pray and make supplication before you in this house, then hear in the heavens and forgive the sin of your people Israel, and bring them back to the land which you gave them to their fathers. And when the heavens are shut up and there's no rain because they've sinned against you, and they shall pray toward this place and confess your name and turn from their sin because you afflict them, then hear in the heavens and forgive the sin of your servants, your people Israel, for you teach them the good way in which they should walk. It shall send rain on your land, which you've given to your people as an inheritance. And when there's scarcity of food in the land, or when there's pestilence or blight or mildew, locusts or grasshoppers, when their enemies distress them in the land of their cities, any plague or any sickness, whatever prayer, whatever supplication is made by anyone or by all your people Israel, when each one knows his own plague and his own grief and spreads out his hands to this house, then hear from the heavens, your dwelling place, and forgive. And give to every one according to all his ways, whose heart you know. For you alone know the hearts of the sons of men, so that they fear you, to walk in your ways as long as they live in the land which you gave to our fathers. Also, concerning a foreigner who is not of your people Israel, but who comes from a far land, for the sake of your great name and your strong hand and your outstretched arm, when they come to pray in this house, then hear from the heavens, your dwelling place, and do according to all which the foreigner calls to you for, so that all the people of the earth know your name and fear you, as do your people Israel, and to know that this house which I have built is called by your name. When your people go out to battle against their enemies in the way that you send them, and they shall pray to you toward the city which you've chosen, and toward the house which I've built for your name, then shall you hear from the heavens their prayer and their supplication and maintain their cause? When they sin against you, for there is no one who does not sin, and you become enraged with them and give them to the enemy, and they take them captive to a land far or near, then they shall turn back unto their heart in the land where they've been taken captive, and shall turn and make supplication to you in the land of their captivity, saying, we've sinned, we've acted crookedly, and we've done wrong. And when they return to you with all their heart and with all their being in the land of their captivity, where they've been taken captive, and they shall pray toward their land which you gave to their fathers, and the city which you've chosen, and toward the house which I've built for your name, then shall you hear from the heavens, your dwelling place, their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause, and forgive your people who've sinned against you. Now, my Elohim, I pray, let your eyes be open and let your ears be attentive to the prayer of this place. And now arise, O Yehovah Elohim, to your resting place, you and the ark of your strength. Let your priests, O Yehovah Elohim, be robed with deliverance. And let your lovingly committed ones rejoice in goodness. O Yehovah Elohim, do not turn away the face of your anointed. Remember the loving commitment of your servant David. Chapter 7. And when Shlomo had ended praying, fire came down from the heavens and consumed the ascending offering and the slaughterings. And the esteem of Jehovah filled the house, and the priests were unable to enter the house of Jehovah, because the esteem of Jehovah had filled the house of Jehovah. And all the children of Israel saw how the fire came down, and the esteem of Jehovah on the house, and they bowed their faces to the ground on the pavement, and did obeisance, and gave thanks to Jehovah, saying, For he is good, for his loving commitment is everlasting. And the sovereign and all the people slaughtered slaughterings before Jehovah, and sovereign Shlomo slaughtered a slaughtering of 22,000 bulls and 120,000 sheep. Thus the sovereign and all the people dedicated the house of Elohim, and the priests were standing over their duties, and the Levites with instruments of song to Jehovah, which sovereign David had made to give thanks to Jehovah, saying, For his loving commitment is everlasting. Whenever David praised by their hand, and the priests were blowing trumpets before them, and all Israel were standing. And Shlomo set apart the middle of the courtyard that was in front of the house of Jehovah, for there he made ascending offerings and the fat of the peace offerings, because the bronze slaughter place which Shlomo had made was not able to contain the ascending offerings and the grain offerings and the fat. And Shlomo at that time observed the festival 7 days, and all Israel with him, a very great assembly from the entrance of Hamath to the Wadi of Mitzrayim. And on the 8th day they held an assembly, for they performed the dedication of the slaughter place 7 days, and the festival 7 days. And on the 23rd day of the 7th new moon, he sent the people away to their tents, rejoicing and glad of heart for the goodness that Jehovah had done for David and for Shlomo and for his people Israel. Thus Shlomo finished the house of Jehovah and the sovereign's house, and all that came into the heart of Shlomo to do in the house of Jehovah and in his own house, he prosperously executed. And Jehovah appeared to Shlomo by night and said to him, I've heard your prayer and have chosen this place for myself as a house of slaughtering. If I shut up the heavens and there is no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, and my people, upon whom my name is called, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their evil ways, then I shall hear from the heavens and forgive their sin and heal their land. Now, my eyes are open and my ears are attentive to the prayer of this place. And now I've chosen and set this house apart for my name to be there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall always be there. And you, if you walk before me as your father David walked, and do according to all that I commanded you, and if you guard my laws and my right rulings, then I shall establish the throne of your reign, as I covenanted with David your father, saying, there is not to cease a man of yours as ruler in Israel. But if you turn away and forsake my laws and my commands which I've set before you, and shall go and serve other mighty ones and bow yourself down to them, then I shall pluck them from my land which I've given them, and this house which I've set apart for my name I shall cast out of my sight, and make it to be a proverb and a mockery among all peoples. And this house, which has been exalted, and everyone who passes by it shall be astonished and say, why has Yehovah done thus to this land and this house? Then they shall say, because they forsook Yehovah Elohim of their fathers, who brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim, and embraced other mighty ones, and bowed themselves to them and served them. Therefore he's brought all this evil on them. And Psalm 136. Give thanks to Yehovah, for he is good, for his loving commitment is everlasting. Give thanks to the Elohim of mighty ones, for his loving commitment is everlasting. Give thanks to the Master of masters, for his loving commitment is everlasting. To him alone does great wonders, for his loving commitment is everlasting. To him by wisdom made the heavens, for his loving commitment is everlasting. To him who spread the earth on the waters, for his loving commitment is everlasting. To him who made great lights, for his loving commitment is everlasting. The sun to rule by day, for his loving commitment is everlasting. The moon and stars to rule by night, for his loving commitment is everlasting. To him who struck Mitzrayim and their firstborn, for his loving commitment is everlasting, and brought Israel from their midst, for his loving commitment is everlasting. With a strong hand and with an outstretched arm, for his loving commitment is everlasting. To him who split apart the sea of reeds, for his loving commitment is everlasting, and made Israel pass through the midst of it, for his loving commitment is everlasting, but shook off Pharaoh and his army in the sea of reeds, for his loving commitment is everlasting. To him who led his people through the wilderness, for his loving commitment is everlasting. To him who struck great sovereigns, for his loving commitment is everlasting, and killed mighty sovereigns, for his loving commitment is everlasting. Even Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, for his loving commitment is everlasting, and Og, sovereign of Bashan, for his loving commitment is everlasting, and gave their land as an inheritance, for his loving commitment is everlasting, an inheritance to Israel his servant, for his loving commitment is everlasting, who remembered us in our humiliation, for his loving commitment is everlasting, and rescued us from our adversaries, for his loving commitment is everlasting, who gives food to all flesh, for his loving commitment is everlasting. Give thanks to the El of the heavens, for his loving commitment is everlasting.